Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for tuning in today to a very special guest that I like to introduce first. Our beloved MLA Calgary-North, brother Muhammad Yaseen. Assalamu alaikum, MLA Muhammad. I'm really happy that we're here together tonight, and thank you very much for making the time for us here to meet tonight, so we can learn more about your journey as a a member of the Muslim community of Calgary, whether on a personal side or on a political side. So thank you on behalf of all the people who are going to be watching us tonight. I would like to thank you, MLA Muhammad.
Thank you very much, Brother Sam, for the invite. A pleasure to be here.
Actually, what really inspired me to talk to you is your story. I mean, your story, I would say it's the story of every immigrant comes to this country. I mean, when I heard that you came when you were 17 years old and you made it all the way for the last who knows how many years, I don't want to say in the easy way, but most likely in a hard way. So that's a very inspiring story for us. So before we get into the political side of it, would you please just tell us more about who is Muhammad Yaseen and how was the first part of his journey in Canada?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I came here, like many newcomers, as someone looking for better opportunities,
right,
just like many of us do. And it was in the latter part of 70s when I came here at the age of 17, and I was actually in grade 12 at that time.
Grade 12?
So, yes. And I was able to go to school here to complete my high school.
Right.
And then subsequently, I was able to go to SID, Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, to start my engineering program there, because there was no Bachelor of Science in Petroleum Engineering. That's what I wanted to do. In those days, petroleum was, it was just gaining a lot of momentum. And I wanted to be a petroleum engineer, and there was no a Bachelor of Science program at a BSc level at the University of Calgary, or for that matter, at the University of Alberta. So, however, they were in our technical institutes like SID and NATE. They both had a 2-year technology program. So I was able to start, after completing my grade 12 year, I was able to start my petroleum engineering technology program here at SID. I completed that in 1979, and then I went to rural Alberta to start my first assignment in oil and gas industry. I had the opportunity to live in rural Alberta for a couple of years before I was given an opportunity to go back to school again to complete my education. I then returned back to university, actually went back to school again. After working for 2.5 years, I went back to school to complete my education. And I completed my Bachelor of Science degree in 1983 in petroleum engineering from the University of Wyoming. I was actually on educational leave of absence from my company. After working for 2 years, little over 2 years, they had given me an opportunity to go back to school on educational leave of absence. So I was able to take advantage of that, and I completed my BS in petroleum engineering.
Right.
I was offered a job then in Calgary, and I started to work for an oil and gas firm here in Calgary, Texaco. And I worked there for a number of years, probably 8-9 years, totally from 1979. And the whole company was actually, it merged with another company called Imperial Oil.
Right.
And I have been working with Imperial Oil since then. But in the evening, though, I continued to work to complete my education and further my education. I was able to complete my master's in civil engineering from University of Calgary,
Right.
as well as later on working in the daytime and going to school in the evening. I was able to also complete my MBA as well.
Oh, I see. Okay.
At the same time, while I was doing all that, I was working full time. I was also, I had already gotten involved in the volunteer work in our own communities and community outside. Because when I came here and when I started working in out of northwest of Red Deer, in a rural town, people there were so cooperative and so helpful to me because I had no idea, apart from what I had learned from school, how my business was operating and how, what I needed to get up to speed. But people helped me a lot. So I took that from both people and I wanted to give back. So I also started to do volunteer work. So, and we can talk about that. And I spent many years in our own community as well as outside.
So you get into the volunteering side, because I do understand there's a professional side of your. I mean, we all have business. We all have to do something, get educated, find a job, and build a career. So while you were in your private sector, you were also volunteering at the same time, or you start volunteering at later on?
At the same time.
You
Actually, way back, I started to do my volunteer work. I think it was way back as right after a couple of years I came back from school. I think in 1984, 1985.
Right. So was it hard for you as an international student, or let's say, let me be specific. Was it hard for you back then in the 70s and 80s? And we remember the 80s was really tough here in Calgary, in Alberta. Was it hard for you as a new international student, a Muslim student, named Muhammad and all that stuff? Was it hard for you to get ahead in life, or was it just like these days, still easy breezy?
Well, thank you very much for that question. Things were quite different at that time. Alberta wasn't the same as it is now. Canada wasn't the same as it is now. So we had to go through difficult situation at that time.
Right.
I remember when I was working out of a small town in northwest of Red Deer.
Yeah.
When I started to live there, people had not seen someone like me. So people would even stop in the evening when I would go out, people would stop their cars, look at me. And most of them were very welcoming and very, accommodating. But, things were,
looking at you in what way?
Well, look, because first of all, because they were only familiar with two types, either Caucasians or black people, right? And so this is the guy in the middle. Where does he come from?
Oh,
so for them, it was somebody new, right? They had someone that they had not probably seen before.
So that's in the 70s. Was like that, eh?
Yeah. So this is latter part of 70s. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And not everybody, but but I got that impression when I was walking on the street, right?
Right.
But let me emphasize this though. I became familiar with rural culture, and the presumption that you might have, or you may have heard about rural culture here, I found them totally opposite. Very accommodating, very welcoming, and very understanding.
And very hospitable too.
And very hospitable. So no question about that. I know that where I was living, the place I was living, those people there, in the beginning, they were a little bit reluctant to let me in their basement. But,
oh, really?
Yeah. But because they had not, somebody new, right? New culture. I don't know what to expect and all that. But guess what happened? After 1 month, I was literally adopted in that family.
Right.
I'm so thankful to them, and I'm so I learned so much about rural culture and being part of that family. So literally, my landlord was like my mom. She took care of me like that. I remember those days when I used to, after work, especially in the evening, wintertime, she would be crocheting and I would be sitting beside her. And then, like, I was very young at that time, you see.
Right.
So she would be telling me her stories and all that. So it was like a family. So I became part of that family. For me there was a mother-like figure there, and there was a grandmother-like figure there as well. So her mom. So it was so for me, I had nothing but pleasure living and enjoying the rural culture of Alberta. For me, it was an amazing experience, and I kept it.
So do you think that experience and being exposed to all different kind of communities, whether urban or rural Albertans, do you think that helped you to understand the culture, the people faster and better than just staying with your own group of people, or just go to work and then go back to a very small group of people? Do you think interacting with all kind of people, and mainly with the rural areas, that help you to understand the mentality of the Albertans, and also to understand the struggle and the hopes and the dreams of this community? Do you think that helped back then, back in the 80s and beyond?
Absolutely. And for me, that, my living in rural Alberta actually enabled me to understand how the cities, how the dynamics were in the cities as well as in the rural area. And
Right.
let me share this with you. People who were living here, they were also, their parents at one point in time, they had also moved here from elsewhere.
Right.
So they, many of them could relate to me as well, except I was the first generation and they were probably second generation here. But they could remember how people moved here in Alberta from European countries for the family. For example, I was living with their heritage was Norwegian, and they had moved from there to here to do farming and everybody moves here for opportunities, right?
Right.
And people move there in our cities as well as in our rural areas from different parts of the world for better opportunities. And what that allowed me to do, for me personally, is first of all I was already familiar somewhat with city culture because I lived in Calgary for almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew what was happening here. So then, when I moved to northwest of Red Deer, I became familiar with how people lived there, and their culture so much. I could identify myself in very many ways, like my own culture with their culture.
So true.
Very, very, they were very open. They were very accommodative. So if you dropped by somebody's house, it's supper time, there's no question asked. So you are expected to have supper with them. It's not that the cities thing may be different, right? So
totally. Yes.
So it's like that. So that's the kind of culture I had, grown up with back home, and that was very much similar to that, right? So there's one thing though, in all cultures there are there are people of different different types, right? But vast majority of people that you interact with, they're good people.
So true.
And it's and what happens is that you have, sometime. So I would characterize this like this. Good 90% of the people, 80 to 90% of the people, they were so accommodative, they were so welcoming, and I felt like part of them, and it's not a problem at all.
Right.
I found opportunities for me to break the barriers with who did not understand me, because I knew once they know about me, there's no way they can dislike me. So I found a way to connect with those people and break the barriers.
Right.
People have information. People have information about certain parts of the world. They have about certain people, and that information, how that information is transmitted through media or newspaper or whatever. And mostly that is not really accurate information. So it's, and with the advantage that I had with my name, I didn't need to explain.
Muhammad and Yaseen as well. Okay, which is the very challenging.
Muhammad Yaseen, and so I did not need to explain things there.
Yes.
Right? So it
Muhammad,
was
okay.
Yeah. So there has been an opportunity for me right from day one here to educate others about us, about our culture, about our faith, and once they understood that, you had removed barriers already, and they have become your friends. And I have lifelong friends going back to 1979.
Oh, wow.
Rural cultures, right? I'm quite familiar with actually through.
So sorry to interrupt you, but you did not change your name to Mo.
No, I have always been called Muhammad Yaseen. Yes. I have always had this. This goes back when I was 17-year-old. So as I was mentioning earlier to you, that things were different here. Things were really different. So and I endured all that too. I am not, difficult part of me. There was it was all hunky dory, all good. Right. It was the part of it was very difficult. But you know what? You don't give up, and you want to be identified with your values.
So true.
I didn't think that changing my name to Mo, and actually I was suggested a number of times that I did not feel like I should be doing that, and I stuck with that. Not only when I was 17-year-old,
yes,
throughout my professional life, 40 years of my career here in oil and gas industry with a reputable company. I'm known as Muhammad.
Right. Well,
yes.
Okay, because I asked you about Mo versus Muhammad, because personally my name is Osama, but I have to go through that struggle to change my name to Sam. So that's, I think we all we have our own reason.
There may be reasons for people to do that. I'm not saying that we should not be doing that, but I'm just giving you my own side of the story.
Okay. So I want to just highlight that a very important things happen in Canada recently, in the last day before yesterday. I mean, I'm talking here to MLA Muhammad Yaseen in Alberta, a student who came when he was 17 years old, and he came here and he ended up climbing the ladder of success all the way to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta. But also we do have another story that happened a few days ago in Ottawa. We have another Muslim minister came as a foreign student, Minister Al-Ghabra, and also he made it all the way to the federal government as a Minister of Transportation. So really, that's great indications for me as a Muslim Canadian here, that Muslims Canadian are on the move finally to get involved in politics. So before I start focusing on that, and I just want to acknowledge that there is two politicians that came as a student to Canada and made it, and that's something really important for all of us here, especially those immigrants who comes to this country and trying to think like. And that's what I like about your story, MLA Muhammad, is you came here. You did not end up like me, just saying, you know what, I'm just going to work and I'm just going to make some money, and maybe my next generation or third generation after me will get involved. But you jumped in from the get-go, work, community work, political activities, and all this stuff. So I applaud you for doing that. And I want to jump to that part of your story, but I have to ask you one question before we start that conversation, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, please.
You lived in the 80s and the 90s and some part of the 70s in Canada. And then 2001 hit. Did you notice any shift with 9/11 in Canada toward Muslims Canadian?
Well, of course, 9/11 was an event that impacted a lot of people in the world. Particularly Muslims, outside, in fact, everywhere as well. Right. But there were casualties there in the U.S., and I think close to 3,000 casualties there. But there was, it impacted many of us around the world, and including myself and people who were here at that time. Yes, it had its own. There was a backlash, but vast majority of the people here, despite all that, the difficult surrounding at that time, they were open. They were very helpful. They open up their, they would make phone calls. They would check things out. So despite the difficulties, but big event had taken place in the world that shook entire world, and it had impact on everybody.
Right. Okay. Well, because you remember how we were talking about that fuzzy, nice, welcoming feeling that we experienced back in the 80s and the 90s, and that I'm trying to really to scale the impact of 9/11 and those feelings and those so-called acceptance that we felt so welcome when we came before versus those who came after that. Because personally, I felt the impact, but I don't know. I don't think it lasted for long, but it definitely I felt it, and that's why I want your feedback on.
For sure, it changed things for a while. It was very difficult for a year or two, and people, as we all got around that, people began to understand things, and things changed afterwards. But it had its implication on Muslim community. There's no question about that.
So true. And at least for me was a big lesson to get involved more. And from the concept is the act of few could affect us all. And that's for that reason, I really think that's something, whether we like it or not, we have to find ways to make sure the majority voices are heard and are engaged. And this is one of the initiative, one of the purpose of to talk to people and ask them to step forward. So back to you, MLA, Brother Muhammad. How did you get involved in politics, and when was the actual start?
Okay, so we had started to talk a little bit about my volunteer work, and as I got involved in the community, our own community. You learn things, and you develop a passion, and then you continuously keep helping people, because others helped me, and I wanted to help others. It's just kind of giving back. So, and I got involved not only within our own community, but I know there was a misconception about about my people from my community out there. I wanted to change that misconception, so I got involved in other things outside the community. The Red Cross, the United Way, the Food Bank, Junior Achievement, Mustard Seed, and so onward, where I had the opportunity to work with them, fellow Canadians, other Canadians, and so for me, it was I didn't need any introduction because my name was so obvious. So I got involved in then of course our own community as well. So what happens is that when you're working and helping people, you develop a passion. You develop a passion to help, and once that passion is there inside you, then you don't have to be regulated from outside. Nobody has to ask. It's a Saturday, go to the food bank, whatever. It's there inside, and then you get up and you're trying to make a difference. So then I had three circles in my life. For example, there's a professional circle where I work. There is a social circle where I interacted with my own communities and largely, and there's a volunteer circle, and volunteer circle kind of encourages you. Actually, it goes like this, right? So people out there, when I had been, I know I have lots of Canadian friends, mainstream friends. They were actually they were a source of encouragement for me to get into this politic thing. I wasn't really thinking I have helped other people. I have helped others. I have encouraged others to get into this. But I wasn't really thinking that I would be getting involved in this myself. But it was through my volunteer circle that kind of encouraged me to do where I am right now.
Okay. So when was the actual real engagement in politics in Alberta politics? When was that? What year?
Let me share this with you. I have always been very vigilant around what was happening provincially and federally, especially being in oil and gas industry, Alberta and the federal government. There were always, there was something was going on. So I was very much involved into, in the federal politics, in terms of understanding, and provincial politics and city politics. And I was encouraging others to get involved as well. So way back, I've been a member of, I've been voting, progressive conservative for, I don't know, going back in the 90s and 80s.
Right.
So I have, I've been involved like that, but not in the sense that I would be an MLA. I was hoping to make in other people MLAs, but at the end, it just turned out to be that I am MLA myself, but there's other ones. I know they do a lot of work in our community to make to create political awareness. And when we need to get involved in this, it's so important for us to get involved and have, our say in the political system here, whether it's a civic here locally or provincial or federal for that matter.
Right.
And let me share this with you as well. I'm not the first one. Somebody, I think, earlier made a comment here that there were other ones here before. Yes, of course. You know, our first MLA here, Larry Shaban, Muslim MLA. He became MLA and first cabinet minister in Canada, in this province here.
Oh, really? What was his name?
His name was Larry Shaban.
Larry Shaban. Okay.
We affectionately call Larry Shaban.
Okay, Larry. Wow, that's impressive.
I have in the Legislative Assembly.
Right.
On a couple of I think few months back, I talked about the history of Muslims, the contributions of Muslims here in this province. So I started, then I did some search on that, and I think you can go, if you go on my Facebook, I can share that with you. It's already on in the Facebook. There's a little talk about that, and what I said there was I started from Larry Shaban.
Oh, wow.
And they're from this province. Let me share this with you as well.
Sure, go ahead.
Province of Alberta, first Muslim member of Parliament from this province. All right. First Muslim cabinet minister from this province.
Wow. Okay.
First Muslim mayor from this province.
It's true.
Right.
That's
First Muslim lieutenant governor now from this province.
That's right.
We have been part of the system here. First mosque.
First mosque.
In America was built right here in this province, and with the help of Christians and Jewish community.
So true. And also, I want to add to it, this is the home of the 6-timers MLA Amri too.
Yeah.
He was like MLA for 6 times.
So our longest parliamentarian was probably, I think, I'm not sure how long was Larry Shaban, but it's probably Amri is probably has that designation. Probably, I think he served for almost like 22 years, right?
Okay, so
either him or Larry Shaban is one or the other. So those are the people we need to drive our strength from. They have contributed a lot. So I'm latecomer here. So there are people.
But I want to say one thing here. I want to add to that. Do you think these people we mentioned their names, and you are one of them? Do you think they made it all the way because the community developed this leadership, or because these guys went on their own and developed those relationships and developed those connections and developed this aim? So it seems to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, all this success, maybe it was an individual success more than a group making a decision that we want to elect one of us, the best of us, and to have a say in the higher chamber. Is that fair, or I'm being too harsh on our community?
Yeah. So it takes a lot to get. I have personally, I have been in community involvement for a long time, and I know it takes effort even to do that.
Right.
To get into to become an MLA or a member of Parliament or a councillor for the city of Calgary, it takes a lot more than that. So it's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of you have to go through a lot to become an MLA. Now, how did these people become? Well, they put all this personal effort. I think as collectively as a community, we need to have an organized effort to make sure that our people get involved. we participate in the political system. First of all, step number one is that we need to get involved in a number of different ways, right?
Right.
Step number one would be to just be able to participate and vote, show up. That's step number one. It doesn't take a lot, right? And if we vote, we will get involved. We will have then we want to see maybe some of our own there as well. So voting is important, right? Taking part and showing up. That's number one. And then there is additional effort, right? So then we need to, people who want to get into this, political system. And for me, I wasn't, meant for the political system. I was basically meant for, to be a volunteer. So I did that route, and maybe through that route, for me, it just opened up the opportunity for me, to get into this, into the political system. But yes, at the community level, it's difficult if you're not prepared yourself, and you want to be a politician, you want to be MLA, and you're not prepared for for that work. It's hard work. You have to do that. You have to be qualified. You have to, have a, aspiration to do that. Second, if that is supplemented by, a strong community, behind that, that makes a lot of difference, right? So and you can see, and you can see there are communities, they are, we are a little bit behind, and we need to catch up. We need to participate, and I think the political system, when the political system understand that we participate, they would, so then you all of a sudden you create, your value for yourself, right?
But somebody might say, as a Muslim community in Calgary, maybe we're just kind of like or in Alberta, I should say, maybe we're kind of like a new community per se, kind of new. Yes, a few guys made it back in the early 90s and stuff, but majority of us came maybe in the 70s and all the way to the 2000 and whatever. So that's why when people come to this country, probably their priority is to get education, to get to get schools, education, work, buying a house, financial success. Is that enough? Is that the justifiable reason why we're not heavily involved like other communities directly, or you think we should consider while we build in our financial future, we should consider being also active on the municipal level and the provincial level and also on the federal level? Is that do you think being new it's an understanding excuse for not being involved?
That is a good question, and I think that is a story of every newcomer. That is not a new story for just for us. It's everybody goes to the same going, right. and we need to be concurrently involved in things.
Right.
It's not one I do this at this time and do the other time. It's a number of things that you get involved in, and I think first couple of years for any newcomers, right. I think that is kind of trying to get their profession in order, getting involved in the, to making sure that you're able to get job in your own field, trying to train yourself. That is something that everybody goes through. But you know what? The difference between this country here and our country that we, sometimes we have to, we leave behind and we come here. Right. It's not only for us, but for everybody around the world. Right. People move here for opportunities, because there's a level playing field here. Everybody has the same opportunity. It doesn't matter which which category or which level of a community you belong to. Yes. Here you work hard, you make your way through, and that is the beauty of this country. And we are very lucky to be in this country and in this province, in this city, and because it offers opportunities and prospect that same. Just think like this, or consider it like this. Mm-hmm. The day we land here, first day we are at the airport, after we have landed and we are stamped in as immigrant, as a landed immigrant, you have all the rights and privileges, the same as someone who had been living here 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
Is that a small thing? No.
That's huge.
Right. But along with that comes, of course, responsibilities and with that as well, right? So there are all these facilities that you have, privileges. They come with a responsibility. We have to, and here we have an opportunity to create name for our community. We work hard, we will get. It's almost guaranteed. You work hard, you will make your way through the system here. It's guaranteed. If someone like myself can make it, I think everybody can make it.
But MLA, I mean, honestly, I hear it quite a bit. A lot of people who come, let's say new, especially in the last 10 years or so, they would say, guys, for you, when you came back in 20, 30 years ago, things are much, much easier. Now it's very, very difficult. That's what I hear a lot from newcomers and new immigrants. And I don't know if it's really, I understand the situation in Alberta a little bit tough, and it's been tough for a while on the job side. But is it different now than back then? Back in the 80s and 90s, and so do you see it that way too as well, that now it's really rough and hard to make it here in Alberta?
I'm not really sure how you were able to conclude or make a statement like that it may be easier now than it is now.
It's much harder now than before. Back then, things were much easier. Now
I can share this with you. For myself, for me, it was way more difficult than it is now to get at that time. Go back for 45 years and then understand in your mind how things would have been here. Things were difficult here. First of all, weather-wise, just let alone everything else. Yes. It was pretty cold here. It was like it was not uncommon to see a full January for the month of January. I remember that. I think whether that was 1980 or 81, way back, long time ago. One entire month passed with minus 40 temperature. Yeah. And I take the bus to
maybe it was easier to find job. That's probably what I meant.
No, okay. So at that time, for example, there were opportunities like in oil and gas sector. Alberta was Alberta is one of the richest provinces in Canada, in the Federation, and Alberta was basically because of oil and gas, and as a result of oil and gas, the ripple effects on the economy, right? The opportunities are everywhere, but those opportunities weren't there just to just go there and there you pluck the opportunity, come back home, and you'll have a job. No, still you have to be qualified. Still you have to compete because people were coming here from all over the world and from within Canada as well. So competition was still there, just like it is now. So I'm not sure that it was any, whether it's easier now or it was easier way back. I can tell you that at night, earlier on, in my first couple of years, I used to cry at night. Why did I come here? I was reduced to literally zero.
Oh, wow.
Right? So so for me, and maybe to some extent for you as well, right? So I'm like 17-year-old, and although you think you know everything at that time in back home, but that is not the case, right? So when you come here, do you realize that actually you're basically reduced to pretty close to zero. So language issues, the cultural issues, social issues, and trying to understand. And at the same time, you're learning. I was going to school. I couldn't just understand the situation. You're sitting in a class. You're having a difficult time understanding what is being taught in the first place. And then you also have this fear of other fears around too, because people around you. You have this feeling and understanding in your mind that you may not be very welcoming here either. So then you got all this thing going on, and I'm also a kid myself. So so it has for me I think it's probably different. The nature of difficulties have changed for people. For example, people who come here in mid career. A lot of people have come here in mid careers. For those people, I can say that people who come from Pakistan or India, for example, they would not have a lot of difficulties because now they are trained there in English. They have worked there, so they've got pretty good understanding. And with a little bit of upgrading and writing some exams, they can get in the system pretty easily. Okay. But if your language is different, then it's a different story altogether.
Okay.
So maybe we will get back to that because for those newcomers,
yes,
we have changed things here as well in terms of their credential recognition, in terms of helping them out to settle here. So maybe we'll talk later on. Maybe we'll get to that.
Okay, definitely. We need to talk later on, or maybe at a different time, about your role your role as a Parliamentary Secretary of Immigration, because there's a lot of questions about that in Alberta. But I think we want to talk about our community as a Muslim community from first, or at least for now. I want to, if you don't mind, ask you these questions. I have this question from Muhammad Zuhair. How has Muslim community engagement changed over a period since you have been living in for a very long time? Muslim population has grown. So what is the biggest learning so far, specifically during your MLA time?
Well, I became MLA about a year and a half ago in the last provincial election. Our community is totally, in terms of numbers, it's a totally, it's a huge community now, right? As compared to in the late 70s and when I came here. But I became MLA, year and a half, 2 years ago, and the size of our community remained the same that was 2.5 years ago, or about 2 years ago or so.
Any statistic? How big is the community now in Alberta? Any numbers?
So here's a rough. I was going to get to that. So here's my rough sense of population, Muslim population. I think in Calgary, a lot of people would say that we have about 80,000 people, 90,000 people, Muslim community, all Muslims in Calgary. And then we have in Edmonton, probably about the same, more or less, so that is 160,000 people, right, in these two cities. But I have had the opportunity to travel across Alberta as a part of my role as Parliamentary Secretary of Immigration. I have gone to Red Deer. I've had consultation sessions in Red Deer, Lethbridge, Grand Prairie, and Fort McMurray. And I have met a lot of people there. Now, I didn't even realize that there are fairly good-sized communities living in there as well. And so our numbers have gone up pretty good. If we just need to start getting involved in the political process, I think we overall collectively, I think we're not as involved as we should be to reflect our demographic sites. For example, if in Calgary, we are 80,000 people in the city of Calgary. I don't know. So we need to be reflected there too, right? In the in the city election. Same goes with the provincial and federal. So right. I think that would be possible. Only it's not that because we are growing.
Right.
We have to grow meaningfully, politically, meaningfully in this area. That we need to
grow meaningfully. Yes, totally agree. So we're Muslims in Alberta well over 10%. I mean, from this, it's almost like 15%.
Yeah, I would say. I think people are saying, but I don't know exact. But probably I would say 8 to 10%. If you count rural Alberta plus urban Alberta, it's probably we would probably have close to 2.
If it's close to 200,000, that make it easy 15%. That easy 15%.
4.5 million total, right?
Oh, sorry. I was thinking 1.4. I'm thinking about Calgary for some reason. You see, I think Calgary is the world. I think Calgary, like as Alberta. You're right. I'm so sorry. I was doing like 1.4, which is Alberta. So thank you for that. So between, let's say, 5 to
10. So when I came to Calgary in 1976, I think population of Calgary was around over 300,000, between 3 to 400,000. So
wow.
So just imagine now it's like 300,000 or 350,000, and now, and I stand to be corrected exactly, but I don't. I think it was in that order, and now it's 1.3 or 4.
Okay. So when you say meaningful engagement, meaningful growth, does that mean that as a Muslims MLA in Alberta, do you see that we are the level of engagement, is it at an average, or you think we're below the average compared to other communities?
Well, I would say we are below the average.
We are below the average, and why is that?
You can figure that easily, Sam, right? So we have we just did the numbers now, right? Our numbers are, did you say close to 200,000? I don't know, give and take, I don't know. I'm just giving you a rough ballpark number. So we should have people everywhere. We at 3 levels of participation, right? So if we participate, we can have more MLAs, we can have more councillors, we can have more member of parliament too. But that that is something that maybe other communities can all everybody's working on this, right? And that's good. And we need to catch up to the good things that people. It's a good thing to if we are behind, and we need to catch up. I think that's an opportunity for us, right?
So I don't know if
not only for ourselves. Now the main thing is that we, as we move forward, and our next generation, we need to get them involved in this as well. Right. And me being involved in so many different communities, I know that our youngsters they can have more participation in this regard as well.
So Brother Muhammad Munir, I'm sure Brother Muhammad Munir. He's one of the pioneers here in the city of Calgary as well. It says Muslim community is looking inward. Is that? Do you agree with that?
I'm not exactly sure what he's inferring to, but I think I can only guess. We need to get ourselves outside our own community. To like, I didn't want to say that, but if you look at what I have tried to do in my life, I've been a volunteer in my own community. I did a lot of work, and maybe we can I should, this is what I should say. I have tried to do a lot of work in our own community, and maybe I could do more so that we can all improve, right? But at the same time, I was outside. There was a reason for that. And right. I still, whenever I get a chance now, I go outside. We need to be involved in the mainstream NGOs, institutions, and this is how you would there's an opportunity for us to create to be recognized, and to be understood. So
Sorry, we have only 15 minutes or 12 minutes left, and I would like to ask a few more questions, if you don't mind. I have a question from Khalid Qasim. Says, Salam, brothers. Getting involved in the politicals and the public service is important. Choosing a party to support may be difficult. Choose for some members. Choice for some members of the community. Could you please, MLA Muhammad, explain to us how you chose to run for the UCP versus Liberal or NDP?
Well, first of all, for me, it was easy because I have always been member of Progressive Conservative Party. My involvement has been in politics has been through Progressive Conservative Party, and I also see my values.
Why you chose the UCP versus the other party? That's probably the questions.
Yeah. So because first of all, I was already in UCP. I have been a member of UCP for a long time. So it's not like that you just switch over and change party and then run, right? So my own involvement in and I don't when I talk to people to ask people to participate, I don't they can decide for themselves. They can decide. There are ways to figure out. You can see social policies. You can see financial policy of political parties, and then you have your own preferences, right? And then you can decide where you fit, and based on your your own values and the value that a party that you think you're more aligned with, you can decide. I'm not here to recommend that join a political party. I'm just talking about in general, people getting involved. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, which party you're in, as long as you're part of the political system.
Nadim Al-Haq saying, my hope for our community is we are involved in all levels of government. I am not concerned about what party a person wants to run for. We need to support any person who wants to get involved so that we can be represented for all of us, especially here. He added also, he said, what we've seen happening in Quebec is why we need to be a position of influence.
That's his comment, and that's more or less what I said too, right? Yeah,
so true. So do you think now the youth, the Muslim youth here in Alberta, do you see them also involved? Do you see any engagement or involvement from the youth, or you think we're not really putting so much effort into get our youth, the Muslim youth in Alberta getting involved? Do you see any real actions to bring the youth into the political game?
Yeah, so just like our adults and our elders, our youth are also behind, I guess. They need to get involved in this as well, right? So right. I say that because I know youth from other communities a little bit more involved than our youth. Just like our elders and adult people are not as much involved. It's the same. I think it's probably the same. Going in that direction as well. But I think once we get involved ourselves, our youth will also get involved because they will see you. This is basically, you can get involved in the political system. In Alberta, for example, there are 87 ridings, constituencies, right. And each party has a constituency representation. So people can get involved in in these constituencies, and it's all volunteer work. You get involved, you learn, and you develop some skills, and then you see how the system works, and then you become passionate about it, and then you continue on. It's basically it's not that somebody's gonna pull us in this, and it's our own effort, right? We have to make that effort ourselves.
Right.
Try to so our community has amazing talent. Right. We have doctors, we have engineers, we have scientists, we have pharmacists, we have business people, entrepreneurial people, accountants, and you name it. We are probably one of the most educated communities in this province, right? And then we are, then there are so. The way we count in the system, in any system, it's not individual basis. On individual basis, we count collectively on a collective basis. So the challenge before us is how do we transform our individual excellence into our collective excellence?
Beautiful.
So that I will leave this with you for something like this, right? On this topic here, we need to, because we count everybody. Individually we don't count, right? So we need to work together. What that means is that we need to work together. We need to support ourselves, and and we need to do whatever we can in our capacities to help, to collaborate, to understand and all those good things, right?
We need to strengthen the relationship between the community members, so we make sure we create more awareness about how important to be ready for to be active and to be ready for the future, because honestly, if we don't do it ourselves, nobody's going to do it for us. And if you don't provide that leadership for the youth will just not going to be interested. MLA Muhammad, we have 5 minutes left, and I'd like you to address our Muslim community in Alberta, in Calgary, about what would be your advice, a real, like something that tangible advice you can pass it to them to get more involved. What would be your advice to them?
Well, try to understanding the system, political system first. It's very easy. It's so easy here that you don't spend a lot of time. Understand things that you want to achieve. Nothing comes free. Everything requires sacrifice.
Yes.
Whether it's through your work, through your actions, through your contribution in different ways, right? So you will have to make an effort. If I think, here's another thing for you. If I think this phone here at this side of the table is valueless, but if this phone from this side, it goes on this side here, right, left other side, it becomes very valuable.
Yes.
And I have gotten that idea, right? But
yes,
as long as I am willing to move that phone myself to this side, Sam will come and help me as well, and
right.
This phone will be moved. But if
right.
if I think this phone will move from this side to the other side, Sam will do it. That idea is not going to work out. Whatever you want to do, you have to be prepared to make an effort for that.
Yes.
If you set an objective that we need to get involved, so you'll find ways to guide you, to help you through, to get there. And it's nothing. There's nothing. There's no secret here. And we need to understand the political system here is very easy. There are parties here. There are constituencies. You want to understand. You have to volunteer. And even before that,
right.
If you want to, because you will need support of the community.
Right.
So we would like you to see you as a serving person.
Right.
You have to be seen there as well.
So true.
Serving meals, doing this, helping. Like there's a lot of brothers who do a lot of volunteer work, and
right.
Some of the brothers, they do a lot. Look how our institutions are running, right? There are a lot of volunteer people there, but so we need to do that as well, and then you will have support from the community as well as
right.
your ambition to get involved in the system. And our community is also beginning to understand that we need to get involved politically. And I think we have been involved. It's not that we have not been involved. We have been involved since 1970, 1971, when Larry Shivan became first MLA of Alberta.
I just want to add one thing before, because I only have 2 minutes left, is about the women role in this. What do you say to our Muslim women in Alberta in that regard as well? Because I mean, specifically because when we talk, I mean, we don't see a lot of involvement and a lot of engagement, and you know how taboo is that. What do you say to Muslim women, and especially the young one?
I encourage them. I appeal them to please get involved in this system here. It's so important for us, for our next generations. Nothing stops here. Our women, our ladies to get involved in the political system. It's just like any other field. I see that we have lots of women lady doctors, female doctors. I've seen also a number of engineers and doing other things. And why not be a politician as well by being an MLA?
So that's an open call for women and men alike to get involved.
Women, men, youth, all alike get involved. And we can take a lot of wisdom from a lot of our elderly, people who have been here for a long time. We have a wealth of sources of wisdom here as well. So we can seek help from outside people who have all that knowledge and encouragement for us. We should take advantage of that as well.
Absolutely. So in the last few seconds, I want to thank you, MLA Muhammad Yaseen, and I love your name. It's just a very unique and beautiful name. So thank you for being a public servant for us. Thanks for talking on our behalf, talking on behalf of all immigrants in the government. I know you've been working with all communities, so really I want to thank you for everything you've done, and looking forward for more years to come of your public service. We're looking forward to learn from you. So on behalf of all the people, I'd like to thank you tonight for being part of this tonight chat. Thank you very much, Brother Muhammad.
Thank you so much for the invite and the opportunity to talk to you, and through you, our viewers. And if any of people who have watched us or maybe watch later, please, if there's any question, if I can be of any help, I'm available 24/7, literally 24/7. I will give you my number too, 403-274-1931. That's my office number, and you can call. Anybody can call there anytime. I will once if we receive the message. I'm committed to call back, and if I can be of help, whether it's through for the political process or for that matter for anything else, I'm here to. I have served people. I love serving. I love helping, and may God bless us all to do all that. And thank you for your time. I remember the first time when I met you, you were also helping somebody, and that is another connection. See how connection.
That's so true. Thank you very much, Brother Muhammad. Absolutely I'm delighted to speaking to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. All the best.
So I just want to finish with a few words, guys. Just maybe a reminder for myself and to you guys. If your name is Muhammad, don't be discouraged to get involved in politics. If you are a new immigrant to this country, don't be discouraged to get involved in politics. If you have an accent like me, don't be discouraged to get involved in politics. If you are Muslims, don't be discouraged to be Muslims. We are really lucky to live in the best country in the world, the best province. Still, even though we have troubles, but we're still the best, and it always be. And also, we're lucky to be in Calgary. Thank you very much for being part of this tonight. And just remember, the sky is the limit. And a proof example of MLA Muhammad Yaseen in Alberta, or Minister Amar al-Ghabra in Ottawa. So hopefully one day soon, we're going to find this youth getting more involved. We're going to see those second generation just kicking around and getting involved as well. So we can serve this country of ours, Canada, and we can contribute back to the society, because this society deserves a lot from all its citizens, and we want to be very good, active, and helpful and positive community members. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Jazakum Allah kul khair for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum.